so the year is 1993. It's around 10 o'clock at night, and 5 Chuck E. Cheese restaurant workers in Colorado were getting things ready to call it a night. Christmas was just around the corner, and they'd had a hectic day of running a Chuck E. Cheese around the holiday season. Little did they know that they were about to be part of the most gruesome mass murder to ever happen in a Charles Entertainment Cheese restaurant. Hello and welcome back. If you clicked on this video, there's a good chance you know exactly how much of a horror icon the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise is. And if you don't, well, honestly, you're missing out. Especially if you're a fan of bowel-emptying jump scares. But that's not what we're here to talk about. You see, there's a theory, a game theory if you will, that the original Five Nights at Freddy's was inspired by a real-life mass murder that went down at a family restaurant a lot like Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria. And no, it has nothing to do with the Bite of 87! The events I'm going to tell you about are completely 100% true. So no, it's not conveniently going to be about a security guard that had to fend off possessed animatronics while trying to manage his inexplicable dwindling power supply. This story is real, and it's about a man named Nathan Dunlap. Nathan was a young man born into a very troubled home. He had quite the rocky childhood, living with his mother and his adoptive father. His mother grappled with a series of mental health challenges and was diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. So as you can imagine, Nathan's life was far from serene. It was so bad he attempted suicide at least twice when he was just in junior high. By age 15, young Nathan was already living a life of crime, robbing people with a golf club of all things, eventually escalating to firearms. It wasn't long before he was held in a juvenile detention center. Of course, once Nathan was released, he just went right back to his criminal ways. Eventually, he began to dabble in drug dealing, and from there, it just continued to escalate and escalate. You know how they say crime doesn't pay? Well, it wasn't paying Nathan either, and he needed a job. So he began working at a Chuck E. Cheese. At 19 years old, Nathan wasn't a model citizen, and he wasn't exactly a model employee either. He quickly ran into trouble with his supervisor and was fired. Unfortunately for everyone around him, he was not happy to be out of the job, and according to some of his acquaintances, he swore to get back at the supervisor. But of course, no one took his threats seriously. I mean, we all hate our bosses and swear violent retribution on them, right? Well, Nathan meant every word of it, and at around 9 p.m. on December 14th, 1993, 5 months after he had been laid off, Nathan entered the Chuck E. Cheese restaurant where he used to work. He ordered a ham and cheese sandwich and played an arcade game. For a while there, it looked like he wasn't going to cause any trouble. After playing the game, he went to the restroom, where he hid for about an hour, biding his time and calculating his next move. At around 10:05 p.m., Nathan left the restroom and proceeded to do something truly heinous in that restaurant. First, he made his way over to Sylvia Crowell, an employee who was cleaning the salad bar. He shot her in the right ear, and she toppled over, dead. Then he made his way over to where 17-year-old Ben Grant was vacuuming, and shot him near the left eye. He also did the same to Colleen O'Connor, who had time to plead for her life before Nathan executed her. At this moment, Bobby Steffen, another employee, walked into the restaurant after going out to take a smoke. He had heard the commotion, but didn't pay it too much mind. As he was unloading the dishes into the dishwasher, Nathan came in through the door and fired a shot at him, which hit him in the jaw. Bobby toppled to the floor. Stunned that he was still alive after taking a bullet to the face, he did what any smart person would do and played dead. He held his breath and tried to stay as still as possible as he heard Nathan lead the store manager, 50-year-old Marge Kohlberg, to unlock the safe. After she opened it, he shot her and helped himself to the contents of the safe. While Nathan was busy robbing the place, Bobby saw an opening and stumbled through the back door, running as fast as he could despite the severe pain. He made it to a nearby apartment complex and found the help he so desperately needed. Pretty soon, the police and an ambulance were on their way. When authorities arrived at the scene, they found 2 bodies lying in the hallway, a third in a room and another in the manager's office. 3 of the 4 bodies were beyond help, but the 4th person, Sylvia Crowell, showed some signs of life. Unfortunately, she would pass away the very next day, leaving Bobby the only survivor of that night of terror. It wasn't difficult to find and arrest Nathan thanks to Bobby's statements. It only took 12 hours to find the culprit. Although, they didn't have to look very hard. They just went to his mother's apartment and picked him up there. He was taken to jail and put on trial for the multiple murders, and it was pretty much an open-shut case. Although his lawyers did fight tooth and nail to save their client from a date with the executioner. But that didn't work. and Nathan was convicted of 4 counts of first-degree murder, attempted murder, robbery, and burglary. He was sentenced to death with an additional sentence of 108 years. Nathan's execution date was set, but there was just one more twist left in this story. On March 23, 2020, the new governor of Colorado signed a bill repealing the death penalty in the state and commuted the sentences of all the people on death row, which included Nathan Dunlap, to life imprisonment without parole. As you would imagine, the mass murder in a family restaurant created quite the buzz back in the day. I mean, sure, if anyone was going to get murdered in any restaurant, it'd probably be a Chuck E. Cheese, or I don't know, maybe a Waffle House? The point is, there's probably a reason people say Five Nights at Freddy's was influenced by the horrible events that went down that night. Now, I can't even begin to pretend I know what's going on in Scott Cawthon's head. What I can do is try to make sense of the theory. One thing is for sure though, Scott sure knows a lot about making animatronics very creepy. And the lore of FNAF 1 does have a small, tenuous similarity to the real-life Colorado shooting. Allow me to explain. And no, don't worry, I'm not about to dive into the whole lengthy, incredibly convoluted plot of Five Nights at Freddy's. I'll leave that for more powerful YouTubers than myself to handle. We're just going to talk about Scott for a bit. You see, before the man, the myth, the legend, Scott struck gold with the first FNAF game, then struck it again, and 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 again, you get my point. During his first attempts at creating video games, well, he struck the opposite of gold. They were pretty terrible. Then he made this beauty in 2013, just 1 year before FNAF. He called it Chipper & Sons Lumber Co., and it was supposed to be for children. It wasn't very good either. In fact, it was strangely terrifying. Not in the I need new pants kind of way. No, that was going to come later. It was just uncanny. And it was a flop as well. Scott was so close to throwing in the towel, but he gave game making one more shot, and FNAF was born. This time, he decided to crank up the terror factor and aim for a slightly more mature audience, especially when it comes to the frankly quite gruesome story of the first game. If you've watched this insanely popular video, then you probably know the story of the first game. In short, it's about a deranged man who dresses up in one of the animatronics at Freddy Fazbear's pizzeria and murders a bunch of children, then stuffs their bodies inside the other animatronics. Yikes. So at this point, you're probably thinking, what are the similarities between the lore of FNAF and this terrible event that happened in the 90s? And why on earth are people saying it influenced Scott at all? Well, when it comes to the similarities, I think it's pretty clear. Both in the game and in real life, multiple people were murdered in a family restaurant with creepy animatronics. And honestly, that's about it. It's pretty shallow. So why are people theorizing? Because theorizing is fun. The fan community for FNAF is as wild as the game itself. With theories, fan art, and fan-made content, it's all part of the fun. But the Colorado shooting was very real, and it did negatively affect the lives of several people, so theorizing might not always be fun for everybody. After all, the killer, Nathan Dunlap, is still alive behind bars at Colorado State Penitentiary. All that being said, Scott still hasn't come out to confirm that the Colorado shooting was the inspiration for FNAF. So this really is just a theory. A game. If you want to see another theory I cooked up, you should check out this video about the seemingly never-ending popularity of one of the most notorious serial killers of all time, Ted Bundy. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay notified, because there's a lot more where this came from, here at the Murder Encyclopedia.